If I thought you weren't my friend, I just don't think I could bear it.
Kurt Russell secretly directed Tombstone, but was legally forbidden from taking credit. Val Kilmer never broke character for months, living as a dying tuberculosis patient. Studios called this script unmarketable trash. The production was so chaotic that editors thought the movie was unsalvageable. Somehow, this disaster became one of the greatest westerns ever made. Here's how it all went wrong. Fact number 1. Kurt Russell was the secret director nobody could talk about. Here's Hollywood's best-kept secret. Kurt Russell actually directed Tombstone, but he couldn't legally be credited. George P. Cosmatos was the official director on paper, but when production started falling apart with chaotic schedules and no clear vision, Russell stepped in and took complete control of the entire film. Russell secretly reorganized scenes, guided all the performances, and made every major creative decision while Cosmatos essentially became a figurehead. But here's the crazy part. Due to Directors Guild rules and contractual obligations, Russell had to pretend he wasn't directing his own movie. Cast and crew had to maintain this elaborate fiction throughout production and for years afterward. Imagine being the actual director of one of the most beloved westerns ever made, but having to keep it secret like some kind of Hollywood spy op. Fact number 2. The Arizona desert nearly killed the entire cast and crew. Filming in the Arizona desert sounds authentic for a western, but it turned into a survival horror story. The brutal heat combined with thick period costumes created conditions so extreme that cast and crew members were literally fainting on set. We're talking about Hollywood stars collapsing from heat exhaustion while trying to deliver their lines. The chaotic filming schedule made everything worse. Actors had to perform intense emotional scenes while battling dehydration, heat stroke, and complete physical exhaustion. Some crew members started covering their ears during gunfight scenes just to cope with the sensory overload. By the end of production, the desert had beaten everyone down to their absolute limits. The Wild West was supposed to be tough, but nobody expected making a movie about it to be equally life-threatening. Fact number 3. Val Kilmer never stopped being Doc Holliday. Val Kilmer's portrayal of Doc Holliday is legendary, but his method-acting approach was absolutely insane. Kilmer never broke character throughout the entire production. Not during breaks, not between takes, not even during lunch. He stayed in character 24/7, changing his walk, his speech patterns, and his entire personality to become the tuberculosis-ridden gunfighter. Kilmer extensively researched tuberculosis symptoms and incorporated them into his performance, including the distinctive cough and labored breathing. He essentially lived as a dying man for months while filming. Cast members said it was eerie talking to him because Doc Holliday would respond, not Val Kilmer. The dedication was so complete that some people forgot they were working with an actor instead of an actual 19th century gunslinger. Fact number 4. Every studio in Hollywood rejected this script. Kevin Jarre's Tombstone screenplay was rejected by every major studio in Hollywood. Executives called it too long, too serious, and too crowded with characters. The biggest complaint? Westerns were considered commercially dead. Nobody wanted to see cowboys in the 90s. Studio after studio passed. The script bounced around Hollywood for years, collecting rejection letters like a cursed artifact. Executives insisted audiences had moved beyond westerns and wanted modern action films instead. Finally, an independent financier decided to take the massive risk that every major studio had refused. The irony is incredible. The movie that studios thought was unmarketable became one of the most quotable and beloved westerns ever made. I have 2 guns, one for each of you. Hollywood was close to never hearing that line. Fact number 5. Test audiences forced a complete ending rewrite. The original Tombstone ending was apparently so unsatisfying that test audiences basically revolted. After watching the entire film, preview audiences felt cheated by how the story concluded, leading to panic among producers who realized they had a major problem on their hands. This forced expensive last-minute rewrites and additional filming to create the emotional farewell scene between Doc and Wyatt in the hospital, plus the beautiful snowy epilogue with Josephine. These weren't small tweaks. They completely changed how the story ended and added crucial emotional closure. The crazy part is that these rushed, last-minute additions became some of the movie's most memorable and touching moments. The scenes that give you chills at the end? Those almost didn't exist because the original ending was apparently terrible. Fact number 6. The OK Corral shootout nearly destroyed everyone's hearing. The legendary OK Corral gunfight sequence took 4 full days to film and turned into an endurance test for everyone involved. This wasn't just pointing cameras and shooting. It required dozens of different camera setups, live gunfire with blanks, and split-second timing that had to be perfect for every single angle. By the final takes, the constant gunfire was so overwhelming that crew members were covering their ears just to function. Actors were getting bruised from the physical demands of the choreographed gunfight, and the noise levels were reaching dangerous decibel ranges. 4 days of non-stop gunfights in the desert heat with heavy costumes and precise timing requirements. The 3-minute scene you see in the movie represents nearly a week of controlled chaos and sensory assault. Fact number 7. Michael Biehn almost died during his final gunfight. The climactic duel between Johnny Ringo and Doc Holliday contains a genuinely terrifying behind-the-scenes moment that almost ended in tragedy. Michael Biehn was severely dehydrated from the brutal Arizona heat and his heavy period costume, but nobody realized how bad his condition was until it was almost too late. That dazed, confused look on Ringo's face right before the gunfight? That wasn't acting. Biehn was literally on the verge of fainting from heat exhaustion and dehydration. He was barely conscious, but trying to complete the scene while his body was shutting down. The crew realized something was wrong when he started swaying and looking genuinely disoriented. What should have been a dramatic character moment became a medical emergency disguised as a performance. Fact number 8. The real town of Tombstone hated the movie. You'd think the actual town of Tombstone, Arizona would be thrilled about a major Hollywood movie celebrating their history, but many local residents and historians were furious about the production. They criticized the film as historically inaccurate and claimed it dishonored the real town's legacy and the memory of the actual people involved. Some townspeople were so opposed to the filming that it forced location changes and created tension between the production and the community. Imagine trying to make a movie about a place where half the locals think you're doing it wrong and don't want you there. The controversy created a weird situation where a movie celebrating Tombstone's most famous moment was being protested by the people who lived there. Fact number 9. Editors had to stitch a scattered movie back to life. Post-production on Tombstone was a complete nightmare that nearly killed the film before audiences ever saw it. The footage was scattered, disorganized, and chaotic from the troubled production. Multiple editors tried to make sense of the material and failed. Scenes didn't connect, the timeline was confusing, and nobody could figure out how to make it work. Finally, editors had to abandon traditional filmmaking rules and rely on pure instinct during late-night work sessions, literally stitching the movie back to life through trial and error. They worked around the clock, testing different combinations and sequences until something clicked. The final version of Tombstone exists because editors refused to give up and found creative ways to save a scattered mess. Sometimes the best movies are rescued in the editing room by people who won't accept defeat. And there you have it, 9 absolutely wild facts proving that Tombstone's production was more dangerous than the actual Wild West. From secret directors to near-death experiences, this movie survived everything Hollywood could throw at it and became a classic anyway. Which fact shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed these incredible behind-the-scenes stories, hit that subscribe button for more tales.